Hello and welcome to UnitedQ BBQ Podcast, the only barbecue podcast in the UK, brought to you by your host Dan from UnitedQ and his co-host BBQForte.
Hello.
This episode is brought to you by our kind sponsors ProQ Smokers. ProQ is dedicated to providing you with quality smoking products with top-notch service and free advice for beginners to pit masters. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram under ProQ Smokers. That's P-R-O-Q, letter Q, S-M-O-K-E-R-S. Right, guys, on today's episode, we actually have our sponsors on. So we have...
Hi. And Ian.
Hi, guys. Great to have you on the show. Thanks for being a part of this for today.
Thanks for having us. Yeah, thank you.
We're going to talk about the cues that you guys use yourselves. So if you could give us a quick intro about what it is that you actually like to cook on and the reasons why you like cooking on them.
Yeah, sure. I mean, we use mostly our bullet smokers for sort of home stuff and cooking at work, just because they're easy to use, with small capacity. And yeah, they seem to do enough for up to sort of 20 people. We use them really regularly. Bigger than that, we've got our gravity feed smokers as well. They're sort of commercial size, good for catering. And then we've got some new reverse flows as well coming out later this year, which are great for sort of competition size, maybe small catering events.
Okay, cool. So just for the listeners that don't know, what is a gravity feed smoker?
So our gravity feed is a insulated cabinet smoker that runs on charcoal. And it's basically got a charcoal hopper. So you fill up sort of between 12 and 16 kgs of charcoal. And as it burns away, it slowly feeds itself. So you don't need to refill it.
That's awesome.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. When you were talking then, you mentioned about cooking at work. Someone's told me before on a Friday you quite often fire up the queue and have a little smoke out in the afternoon.
Yeah, absolutely. Every Friday without fail, we feed everyone at Max Barbecue. And we odd hanger on as well.
Yeah, I bet people smell it in the industrial estate and come over.
Yeah, I bet you guys are very popular around there then.
What did you cook in there last Friday?
We had chicken thighs and pork belly.
Nice. And to your own recipes?
Yeah, we try and keep it fairly simple. Just a very simple rub most of the times. Occasionally we'll get sent rubs to try, and that's when we try them.
Awesome. So you guys, I take it, you're mainly low and slow versus the hot and fast methods?
Yeah, to a certain extent. I mean, our history's in low and slow, but we do quite a bit of hot and fast as well. I mean, some of the cooks we do are, incorporating both low and slow and then finishing off with a bit of hot and fast. So yeah, I mean, all methods are good,
So sort of like reverse searing, that sort of thing. So you're starting off a lot of cooks. I mean, that's where that's sort of come from, isn't it? Starting off cooks low and slow and then finish off with a...
And for things like pork belly or chicken thighs and that sort of thing, we would smoke those for a couple of hours or an hour and then just finish them off on the grill.
Awesome.
Yeah, I personally use the base of my ProQ to do a lot of hot and fast stuff with that. I find it's really good for that. After I finish smoking, just pop the top bits off and then stick it just in the base.
That's the beauty of it, because you can just, it's segmented, so you can take it apart and just actually during the cook you can switch from having a full unit and then you can switch down to just using the grill at the end and stuff like that, which is one of the things that I love about it, is the versatility.
Yeah,
we try and in everything that we manufacture and design, we try and make it as versatile as possible. We don't want, for instance, a customer who buys a smoker and then finds that they don't actually like smoking. They're not stuck with a dedicated smoker. They've still got a usable barbecue and can do the other bits and bobs on it,
Yeah, well, that's the same with me. Like I do all sorts of cooks, but at the same time, I still like to go back to the old sort of traditional, just like a burger and stuff like that, sort of sausages and just your normal sort of British barbecue. So yeah, so that's what you can do with the ProQs. You can go all the way up to, I mean, whole briskets and pork butts and everything else like that. But at the same time, you've always got your standard barbecue, your standard grill for what like the average sort of household uses it for, which is that's the great thing that I see with it.
Yeah, we think especially on the bullet smokers, that's what we've achieved is something that's really versatile and affordable, and is a good sort of mid-range, bit of kit.
Awesome. Also, when you mentioned the gravity feed earlier on, you also spoke about a reverse flow. Could you also just mention to the listeners what a reverse flow is, just in case they might not know?
Yeah, sure. So a reverse flow's got it's another cabinet smoker. So it's got 2 inches of insulation all the way around it. And it's got a firebox at the bottom, much like a water smoker does. But the way it works is the air flows up the sides of the smoker, and then is pushed down through the food, and then is taken back up the back through sort of like a quite complex chimney system. And what that does is it keeps your cooking area really even. So from the top grate to the bottom grate, you get very little variation, and same from side to side. It doesn't change much your temperatures. That's why comp teams like to use them, because they're so consistent.
Yeah. Have you guys done any competitions yourselves using that kit?
Not on the new stuff, no. And I did sort of quite a way back do a bit of comp stuff. But to be honest, guys, we'd love to do it, but it's just finding the time. And on the competition side, we mostly get involved on the sponsorship side, and also do the odd bit of judging.
Yeah, I saw you on the stage at Grill Stock last year. Yeah,
I think the only claim to fame there is that I've eaten the most things at Grill Stock out of the judges ever. I've somehow got roped into the wings judging as well, which was quite tricky at times.
Wasn't it something like 60 dishes in 2 days?
Yeah, something.
Wow, I'm jealous. What a job.
Yeah. It's hard, but someone's got to do it, isn't it?
If you ever need anyone else to try 60 dishes in one, then let me know.
Yeah, it was actually not as bad as I thought it was going to be, but yeah, the wings, some of the guys really, spiced them up a lot, just because it wasn't a category that counted towards the overall sort of prize, so they just like to have a bit of fun with the judges and see the pain on their face.
Try and make some judges cry.
Yeah.
So when you guys sell like a ProQ smoker, do you supply any advice with them on like how to cook meats, or what temperatures you should cook what meats at?
Yeah, they come with a small sort of instruction manual that has basic cooking instructions and a couple of recipes in there. What we like about this way of cooking is, once you sort of, get used to the smoker, you can basically do whatever you want on it. And the more you experiment, the better.
Yeah, I can definitely concur with that. Whenever I've been using mine, I'm just adapting it each time as I learn how it went the first time. I change it the next time, try it a bit longer, try it a bit lower, sometimes the opposite way around.
I think no matter how much of no matter how skilled you are as a barbecuer, no matter how long you've been barbecuing, whenever you get a new smoker, you have to get used to it, you have to experiment with it. And again, I'm constantly experimenting with everything that I do in the sort of food world. I'm constantly changing rubs, trying new things, trying new brines, trying different recipes. So, it's one of those things that you've constantly got to sort of adapt and change things and try new things, which is great because the ProQ allows you to do so much.
Yeah, just with American style barbecue, just the different wood types that you can smoke with just gives you endless sort of possibilities on flavors. You can mix beech and hickory and just any other wood together, and it changes the whole cook. And the same with rubs. So for me, I don't think you ever get to a point where you know everything.
Definitely not. Definitely.
Yeah, I've never tried actually myself combining different woods. I've always just gone for a straight hickory or a straight beech. No, I need to be a bit more adventurous, I think. You guys sell different types of wood as well yourselves, don't you?
Yeah, we've got 8 different wood types. The most of the normal ones, like your hickory, oak, beech, cherry apple, and that sort of thing. And then we we've recently got a supply of some Scotch whiskey chunks, chips, single malt barrels.
Nice.
Awesome.
That's incredible.
That's it's a good way to start the morning, just sticking your head into a bag of that.
Yeah, I've got some of your wine oak ones. They smell pretty good as well.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, that's the other thing is, people experiment with the woods. There's olive, there's great vine that you can use.
Mm-hmm.
On the cold smoking side, when you go into the dust, you can sprinkle some dried herbs on there just to give it a bit of a kick. As I say, that's what I love about it. It's just endless possibilities and opportunities.
Mm. Do you think there's like any difference between using these sort of bought chunks and getting like a proper log and chopping it up yourself?
Well, generally the bought ones are going to be, heat treated and dried to a specific moisture content.
Mm-hmm.
They'll more than likely have the bark removed. So you're looking at a more consistent product. If you're wanting to cater for someone or you're sort of competition cooking, but I think for home users, if you can get good sort of wood locally sourced, that's fine. I like to remove the bark. It's one of those contentious issues, but it's personal preference really.
Yeah. Does it make much of a difference, do you think, then, if you remove the bark?
I guess I've got it in my head that the bark's like the skin of the tree, and all the ugly buglies get stuck to it, and I'm not sure I want that on my food. I tend to think it gives you a little bit of a more bitter smoke.
Yeah, you can imagine that.
Yeah, I think I've heard that as well. I think I've heard people saying that. What about sort of seasoning wood then? Because I know that if once you chop down a tree to get sort of best flavour, I mean, I tend to season my wood for about 6 months, a sort of minimum. So I like sort of 6 months, 12 months seasoned. Do the wood that you sell, is that seasoned wood?
Yeah, it's seasoned and heat treated, so it's very consistent. Especially those chunks, they're sort of blocks as opposed to sort of bits of wood that just been lopped off a tree.
Yeah.
The beauty of that is that if you're doing a competition cook and that you've won on putting 3 blocks of smoke on, then you can replicate that pretty easily.
Yeah.
With different size chunks and branches and that, you struggle a bit.
Yeah, awesome. I see that when I'm throwing together sort of sauces and stuff, I quite often get to the end and I'm like, oh, that sauce was amazing, but I don't actually know what I put in it. Or I do a cook and what the end product's amazing, and I'm like, yeah, that was great, my best ever brisket or whatever, and I'm like, I didn't really record what I was doing, and I didn't know how many chunks of wood I used or what wood, and I'm just like back at square one again. So you just never know how you got there, and it's like a puzzle. Do you mean to get that perfect cook, or to get what you consider a perfect cook or a great cook, is piecing together that puzzle and putting together all those different things like woods, your amount of smoke, your temperature and stuff like that, wrapping, not wrapping. So so I can completely understand where you're coming from there with the sort of equal sized chunks. You definitely know sort of how much smoke you're getting, and you can replicate that, which is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of guys do sort of record everything on their cooks, which is a good thing. It's mostly competition guys, but to be totally blunt and honest, smoking at home, if you cook with oak or hickory, I would very much doubt if you could blind test and say which one's which. If you don't, if you haven't been smoking for sort of 10 years or something, it's quite difficult to tell the difference. Yeah,
no, I totally agree. Yeah, I mean, I use oak's my sort of standard go-to wood, but yeah, I mean, from me, I mean, I haven't been smoking for years and years. Don't claim to be any expert. I'm just love it, but I do sort of notice some slight flavour difference and sort of the intensity differences and stuff like that. So I do know that I do use oak as my sort of go-to. Beech, I find them quite sort of similar. Maybe beech just a little bit weaker than oak, but those are the two my sort of go-to woods, because I find them accessible as well in my area. So, and also I've ordered them from you guys in the past, which is great.
Yeah, oak's quite a strong smoke as well. It's yeah, it gives you good smoke ring most of the time as well.
Yeah, my weapon of choice, I guess, is hickory. Tends to be the one I would use the most often. You mentioned when you were prepping meats and stuff earlier that you'll put rubs and stuff on. Do you tend to make your own rubs, or have you got like a favourite commercial rub that's available?
We generally make our own, but like we said, I mean, some people send us some for testing and that sort of thing. We may have some sort of coming out later this year as well, which would be great. But if we do manage to get hold of commercial rubs, we try and get hold of butt rub. It's quite hard to get hold of because it's from the US.
Yeah.
But it's made by quite a good friend of ours called Byron, and it's absolutely amazing on pulled pork.
Okay, so that's butt rub. It's called.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I need to try that then.
Yeah. And also, do you so then that's your sort of rubs. Do you tend to brine or inject your meats?
We don't really brine as that much. I mean, we use brining for curing purposes when cold smoking, but for hot smoking, I haven't found that it makes a huge difference. I can get just as moist a turkey on a water smoker with or without brine. I don't think it makes a huge difference.
That's really interesting. That's awesome. Yeah,
I'd agree with you as well. On Christmas Day, I smoked my turkey and I didn't brine. Lots of people were saying you've got to brine, but I didn't, and it was the best turkey I've ever had.
Yeah, it's another one of those, contentious issues where, do you soak your wood or not, or, do you brine or don't you brine?
Yeah.
I don't,
What do you think on the soaking of wood then?
You don't even want to go down that road. Yeah, especially if you're soaking it in beer or whiskey, then, I've got a really big issue with that.
Yeah.
That's what when you said about the sort of the whiskey flavored wood. Unless it's barreled, you're not gonna. When people are soaking their wood chips in whiskey for an hour before they cook, I just think you're never gonna get flavour.
Faster,
you're never gonna get that flavour in there, in my opinion. Anyway, I never have. I've tried it. But it's got to be like sort of that the sort of barrel wood that you guys are talking about, the cask wood.
Yeah, I mean, whiskey's been sitting in there for 6 months, a year, or whatever, and it's soaked into the wood.
Yeah.
You're not going to get that by soaking it in whiskey an hour before you cook on it. Yeah. It just is for me. In order to produce smoke, the wood has to reach a certain moisture content anyway. So if you soak it, and if you do manage to get any moisture into that wood, you've got to burn that moisture off before it produces smoke. So for me, it's a little bit of a waste of time.
Interesting.
But that's my personal opinion.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. And what about injecting then? I suppose similar for you guys then.
Injecting works well if you use something sugary, especially for pulled pork, because that sugar helps to break down enzymes, and that's scientifically proven. But some guys think it's not authentic barbecue. I use Coca-Cola or mango juice or something high sugar content really helps break it down.
Awesome.
If we can't get a USDA brisket like we're cooking at home, it's quite an expensive bit of meat. So if you get a really good British brisket and you haven't got that marbling content, injecting your brisket with beef stock or butter really, really does make a difference.
Now that's really interesting. Yeah.
So when you're injecting it, do you just inject it straight down the middle, or how often would you inject with, was he say butter in it?
Yeah, butter, yeah, or he was saying, yeah. So, do you inject like numerous times, or do you pick one point in the middle, or what do you tend to do?
Numerous times, probably an inch apart, and just, you've got to sort of put your needle in, and then as you sort of pushing the plunger down, slowly pull it out, and sounds very sexy, but
just work the needle.
Yeah, but it's you'll soon know it's quite a messy process. If you've got someone standing nearby, they're more than likely going to get squirted with something.
Okay.
Because suddenly it'll come up the hole that you injected in.
God, this is going downhill quickly. It's a barbecue podcast. Come on.
So, guys, what's your family favourite to cook at home?
For me, it's ribs, brisket, or wings. Ty got something else, I suppose.
Yeah, I like pork belly at the moment. It's sort of my go-to. I just love when you get it just right and the fat just renders perfectly. That's, my favourite thing. Or there was Danny Hawk from Bristol Drum Smokers. He submitted a recipe to our competition recently, actually last summer. But it was for like moinks. It was mac and cheese stuffed meatballs wrapped in bacon, and they were insane.
Oh, wow, I have to check that one out, definitely. We actually have Danny Hawk. He's lined up to come on the show at some point, so that'll be one of the future episodes.
Yeah, the recipes are on our website. So, we try and put stuff on there that's a little bit, a bit more off the wall than your general run-of-the-mill stuff.
So is that the Max Barbecue website?
Yeah.
What is the address for the listeners?
Say again, Ben?
Is it maxbbq.com?
MACSBBQ.com.
Cool. And then there's like a recipes button there. I'm already on it now.
That was quick.
Yeah.
And Ty, you mentioned your pork belly. So what's the process for you cooking this perfect pork belly then for the guys listening?
What I've been doing recently is cooking it on one of our water smokers, but taking the water pan out and just cooking on the top grill. So you'd start your fire as normal, and you really salt the skin side of your pork, and then rub the other side with basic rub, paprika, salt, sugar, a bit of garlic powder, and then you just cook it as sort of long distance direct cooking.
Okay, cool. So the height of the smoker then gives you that, like you said, that long distance between the actual heat source and the meat there. But you're actually doing it direct. So there's nothing actually blocking that. You said you're taking the water bath out, so there's nothing blocking it, which means it's direct cooking, but you're cooking it at a good height.
Yeah. So you also would keep the skin down, so you get a really decent crackle on there as well. And then towards the end, if I normally do that for like 2.5 hours or so, and then drop it down at the end just to make sure that the crackling really pops up.
Oh wow, awesome! So what sort of temperature are you cooking it to for the 2 hours?
It's looking at about 350, something like that.
Okay, cool. Sounds awesome.
I'm just spending my time looking on your website at recipes now.
Please, Ben.
Yeah, I've got some tequila glazed wings. I'm interested on those. I've not tried tequila with anything barbecue. Is that good?
Have you ever drunk it?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Tequila's good. It's good with like Mexican flavors, chili, lime. Works well.
Don't soak your wood chips in it though.
No.
I'm just going to pull you back in. You were saying that one of your favorite cooks is beef ribs. That's a favorite of mine. That's my absolute favorite thing to barbecue. I absolutely love them at the minute. Short ribs or Jacob's Ladder, or whatever. I absolutely love the flavor. So how could I improve my beef ribs, in your opinion?
I guess for me the most important thing is selecting the right, getting a good cut of meat, and make friends with your butcher, and see if you can get local if possible.
What are the listeners looking for when you say a good cut? What particularly are we looking for a good cut of meat?
Well, you're looking for the right sort of fat content. Usually it'll be aged properly, so it's a little bit darker than what you get in the supermarket.
Okay, so some nice marbling then, and hopefully looking a little bit darker because it's been aged.
Yeah, and once you get to know your butcher and he understands what you're trying to do, he'll sort of keep the best cuts for you.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, definitely.
And I like to keep it quite simple, just a salt and pepper rub, maybe with a little bit of coffee on it. But I'm
going to stop you there. The coffee. See, I've heard a lot about the coffee. We were talking about me and Ben were talking about this the other day. I actually haven't tried coffee in much, but yeah, I'm really interested in that. And how does that flavour sort of come through? Is that an intense sort of flavour?
Yeah, it's. I wouldn't say it's a really intense flavour, but it's a background flavour rather, and
yeah, it definitely cooks out.
And it really does go well with beef.
Awesome.
Heavier cuts.
Yeah. So can you definitely taste coffee when you're eating it?
I wouldn't say it was like having a cappuccino or something like that, but
More of a mocha.
It adds like a flavour.
yeah, I wouldn't say it's a distinctly coffee flavour.
Okay.
Cool. I'm a salt and pepper guy,
Yeah.
similar to you. If I'm feeling extremely jazzy, I might go with a bit of garlic powder or a tiny bit of onion powder. But yeah, salt and pepper with my beef tends to be my go-to. So that's quite interesting. I'll definitely try and use a bit of coffee. Is there anything? What sort of just sort of ground coffee beans? Is that what I'm looking to do?
Yeah, use a good good grade of coffee.
Yeah, something that you enjoy drinking.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome.
And yeah, just again, you want it low and slow on this one. You shouldn't need to, finish it off on the grill or anything. Just, take about 6 to 8 hours. And yeah, just 225 to 250 Fahrenheit, and it's that simple.
Awesome. Are you guys sort of? Are you probe sort of temperature to finish, or do you guys go by sort of sight because you've been doing it for so long? Do you know what you're looking for, or do you cook to temp?
Depends on the cook, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it also, we would sort of take it to a temp where it's close to where we want to get to, and then go by feel and sight then. I don't usually try and finish on a temperature. But I'll get close to what people say are the right temperature to cook to, and then I'll start, paying a bit more attention to it.
Yeah, you're not hanging out for that last 1 degree.
No. I did some briskets this weekend, and I was expecting them to take about 14 hours. They finished in 10, so it was a bit of a shocker, but they turned out beautifully, and that was just down to the fact that they reached sort of 190, and I just watched them for the next sort of 10 degrees, and they were perfect.
Yeah, that's cool. I've had that same problem though when I've actually gone out thinking it's going to take 14 hours and come back after 10 hours and it's done, and you think, got to be a bit careful going out, leaving it going.
Yeah, I have turned one brisket into a biscuit.
Yeah.
But,
I think anyone. When I say that, I'm putting myself out here. I've cooked my first few briskets were terrible. I wouldn't even say hardly even edible. I think it's brisket's a massive learning curve. I think that it's one of those things that, other things that I didn't really struggle getting to what I thought was a good standard of sort of pulled pork or like other cooks like that. Ribs, I'm quite happy with my ribs, but I found brisket particularly a hard one to get right, and I actually ruined a couple of briskets in the process of getting there. So I definitely think that it's something that's maybe a little bit tougher to get the hang of and get into the swing of, but practice gets you there.
Yeah,
I'd agree entirely. Yeah,
it's an expensive cut to practice on.
Yeah, especially if you're going for a good breed or like sort of Wagyu USDA or something. You've got to be spending it's a small fortune to be cooking good quality briskets.
Yeah, but with the USDA, although they're quite expensive, they are fairly forgiving because of their fat content, and that's why a lot of the competition guys use that. Very few people use a Wagyu. There are a couple of teams we know that do, but to be honest, they're more looking, only if it's a big money competition, then they'll go out and spend that on a Wagyu. I think for home use, there's some very good Irish briskets around, and I'm sure there are some local producers that would be able to give you a really good brisket as well. But it is one of those cuts that, if it hasn't got that fat content, it's very difficult to get right.
You've had local briskets and been quite successful with those, haven't you?
Yeah. It's just down to sort of testing out and finding, getting the feelers out and trying different things and trying to speak, like I said, getting to know your butcher and asking them questions and talking to them so they learn what you're trying to get. Like you were saying, what you're trying to get from the cook and they'll understand that. So yeah, I've tried local briskets and I've had a couple of fairly successful ones, which again have been down to sort of they've been slightly more marbled and so they're a little bit more forgiving than. I mean, there tends to be pretty lean. The British brisket standard sort of tends to be pretty lean. So, like you were saying, it's pretty hard to get a good finished product on something like that. But I've had some success.
Yeah, and getting your butcher to understand the cut that you're looking for. I mean, traditionally brisket in the UK, they'll trim it right down, trim all the fat off, and then roll it. So getting them to understand that you're looking for a full packer brisket, or a pork shoulder, a butt, and how you want your ribs. That's sort of, once you get past that, then most of the time you'll end up with a good product.
Yeah, except I mean, if you were to get a rolled brisket flat, then there literally is hardly any fats. I mean, most of the fat in a whole brisket comes from the point end anyway. So I mean, if you were to get just the flat, then it's going to be tough anyway. It's going to be tough going no matter where you get your brisket from.
Yeah, they're designed for pot roasting and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
That sort of brisket, but yeah.
Keep it on the brisket there. So, do you guys, when you're cooking, do you wrap your briskets? Do you wrap foil? Do you use like sort of Texas crutch? Do you wrap paper? How do you go about your brisket?
For me, I tend to look for when it reaches an internal of about 150 to 155, and then I'll wrap it until it gets to about 190, and then uncover it again and have a look at how it's doing, check for the wobble, and see if it's got a good bark on it, and just that's you've got a critical period where your probe will slide in and out really easily, and that's when you can take it off and rest it.
Awesome.
I'm guessing you guys have cooked quite a lot of different things on barbecues over the years. Have you got anything you haven't tried that you really want to try?
Well, I don't know that I really want to try them, but coming originally from Zimbabwe, we've eaten crocodile and ostrich and that sort of thing. But yeah, I'd like to try a little bit more of the game, deer and that sort of thing. Maybe a bit of rabbit.
Cool. It's probably pretty hard to source crocodile around these parts. So, and what's the weirdest thing you ever cooked then?
Oh, that's a good question. I'll give that to Ty.
Weirdest thing I've ever cooked.
On a barbecue, yeah. What's the weirdest thing you ever cooked on a barbecue?
Oh wow! I found a pheasant that I hit with my car, and I cooked that.
Didn't really find it then, did you?
I stumbled across this pheasant and
I had to stop and look for a while.
Before you hit the pheasant. Yeah.
How was it then?
Yeah, no, it was awful actually. Really, really tough. It's probably the worst thing I've eaten. I won't be doing it again.
Oh,
killing pheasants or?
That was my next question there. Well, you've killed both questions.
Yeah, I did.
What about stuff like, do you guys ever like, cause I know BBQForte over here is a bit of a, known to do a bit of baking on the barbecue. Do you guys ever go down that sort of road, or do you tend to stick to more traditional cooking on the barbecue?
We've got a really good recipe, again from our competition, for a bread and butter pudding.
Cool.
Smoked on the barbecue, and it is absolutely stunning.
Awesome. I think that's one of those things that people don't really see the side of, but actually with one of the ProQ bullet smokers, the versatility, you can actually cook such amazing things on it. I mean, the baking side of things, I've had one of BBQForte's got a recipe on for it's a pineapple upside down cake on his blog, and that's another one which is absolutely phenomenal with a bit of smoke in there as well. Just a bit of subtle smoke, nothing too much. You don't want it to be overpowering, but just a little bit of subtle smoke in there, and it's so beautiful. It's lovely, actually.
Yeah, people always people forget about puddings on the barbecue.
Yeah, but we also do the cold smoking stuff. So which can we've got a little device that just produces cold smoke that can go basically into the bottom of just about any barbecue. So yeah, I mean, we do butter and that sort of thing. And that's a whole different ball game again. So So yeah.
So tell us more about that then. So your cold smoker, is that the it sort of looks like a little maze, isn't it? And you've put sawdust in it, is that right? And
Yeah, that's the one. So we've done stuff like sort of smoked coconut sorbet.
oh wow,
So you can really do absolutely anything with the cold smoker because you've got no heat, you've got no sort of things to keep you back. You can smoke cheese, salt, sugar, paprika, whatever you want.
yeah, I'm massively into charcuterie as well. That's something that I'm really into. That was something I was into before sort of barbecue. That was what sort of brought me down the barbecue route. I was into charcuterie and doing a lot of cold smoking. I built myself a cold smoking unit out of an old filing cabinet I spoke about last week briefly, which is pretty cool. And yeah, I mean, I love this. I just love the smoky flavor, so I just try smoking anything I possibly can.
Yeah, we're the same.
Are there any good techniques to keep the temperature down when you're using your cold smoker, like in the ProQ?
Come on, Ben, we're in the UK.
Fair enough. I just imagine like a butter just melting through.
There is the odd day that we have, temperatures over sort of 20 degrees where if you put a bit of butter on your cold smoker, it's going to melt and just end up in a pile. So yeah, I mean, you can put a bath of ice in there or something, and that generally is sufficient to keep the temperatures down.
Or smoking overnight's another really good tip. Put it on, make sure it's lit, and then go to bed. When you wake up, you've done 12 hours.
Awesome.
When you mentioned ice, then I've seen a lot of people actually smoking ice as well now.
Yeah.
Homemade liquid smoke.
Yeah. We even had a guy who smokes Marmite. Really? And he travels a lot around the world, and he doesn't go anywhere without his Tarmite, as he calls it.
Tarmite. You have to start selling that.
So with your cold smoking again, so you can smoke. What sort of temperatures do you want to max out at? Where do you want to keep it below?
Well, from what all the books say, you want to keep it below 30 degrees. I personally don't like smoking sort of above 20 degrees.
Yeah, and even if you're smoking stuff like meat, especially if you haven't cured it, you want to keep it well below sort of 5 if you can. So that's why you'd stick to sort of nighttime. That's why it's more of a winter thing than a summer thing most of the time.
Cool. Awesome. Well, can we talk back a bit about ProQ itself then? And so, how did ProQ start? Or Max Barbecue, how did that begin?
Yeah, we came over from Zimbabwe about 13 years ago. My sort of background is in the motor trade. I was in that for 20 years with BMW and Toyota. And when I got across here, I couldn't get a job in the motor industry. Got offered a job just running a small barbecue company that sold online. And unfortunately, the guy was a little bit ahead of his time and ran out of funds. We decided that we would take it on ourselves, and we decided back then that we had to do something different. And we're going back sort of a good 9 years now, where if you spoke about smoking food, people looked at you funny and thought, cigarettes and food, how does that work? So that's where it all started. We started importing stuff from the States, and it was really tough to start with. I mean, as I say, nobody knew about it, but we also had the problems where the States, the supply was really erratic, and to be honest, the quality we were getting wasn't that great either. So we eventually, we're pretty slow learners, so we decided, look, we can have a look at everything that's out there and take all the good points of each one of them and build it into one unit, and try and, as I say, for us it's important that the units are as versatile as possible. They also need to be affordable as well. So that's where we started. ProQ itself now, the brand will be 10 years this year. So.
Oh wow! And I see now that it's huge. You're not doing so well in Australia. A lot of the Australian sort of cooks I sort of keep in touch with, and even in America, it's doing so well. It's such a huge brand across the world now, which is awesome to see. And again, you guys come from a living just down the road from us, actually, Bodmin, it was the weirdest thing ever when I actually heard that you guys are based down there, because it's like this like worldwide barbecue brand that I love. And I had a ProQ before I even knew where you were and stuff. And then the barbecue that I really wanted and went out for and love using was actually like shipped from down the road, which I never knew, which is really awesome.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of like that interaction where, you know, people know us as a local company, and we're not a corporation. We're just a bunch of guys that love what we do. We're passionate about what we do, and our background is, you know, from using the stuff ourselves. So when we design products, we try and make them as easy to use as possible. But we sort of liken ourselves to professional golfers, where they get paid to do what they enjoy, and that's what the business for us is about.
Awesome. You also mentioned that you're from Zimbabwe, and also I know from speaking to you guys and BBQForte, speaking to you, that you travel a lot and like to experiment a lot. It's something that I love to travel, and I've got heritage from Iran, so that really influences my barbecue, or where I began barbecue, with sort of grilling sort of kebabs and everything. Everything's cooked over charcoal in Iran traditionally. So how does sort of your background, how does that influence your barbecue, or what is barbecue like in Zimbabwe? And also, do you find that when you're traveling that it massively influences what you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, traditionally in Zimbabwe, I mean, it's, you know, everyone says, oh, you must be really a professional, and what we sort of struggle with is that most people in this part of the world understand barbecue as grilling.
Yeah.
But, you know, and the same in Zimbabwe, South Africa, Australia, you know, a barbecue is grilling something over a high heat. Whereas what we've come to understand barbecue as is smoking and cooking over fire, basically, in very many different forms. So, yeah, I would say the Zimbabweans were really good grillers, but it wasn't so much about the meat. It was more about the party around, the braai, as they call it there. So
awesome. That is one thing that I just love about food, is the fact it brings everyone, no matter what sort of food it is, it's bringing everyone together. And again, like a barbecue, like whenever you think of like a party, like the first thing you think of, or in my mind anyway, is a barbecue. Let's have a barbecue. It brings everyone together. The drinks are flowing. There's laughter. People having fun, enjoying the good food. Everyone's gathering around the barbecue, gathering around the fire, and it is that social element and that sort of family element and stuff like that really sticks out for me.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we spent a lot of time in the bush out there. I mean, we lived about 50 kilometers from one of the largest national parks, which was really wild. If you went in there on a weekend, you were pretty unfortunate if you saw another car. So, you know, we spent a lot of time around a fire, which we refer to as Bushman TV. And yeah, there's nothing better than, you know, sharing, you know, food cooked on a fire with family and friends, and being able to sit down afterwards. I mean, often we'll just take the base of the ProQ after we've cooked on it and throw a couple of logs in there and have a little, you know, fire going that we all sit around. It's just fantastic. There's nothing that beats it.
Yeah, we definitely do the same. That's always pop the top off and stick it out in the middle of everyone sat round with the chairs.
Yeah.
So,
awesome.
What have you guys got planned next? Have you got anything special
you
coming
mentioned,
up?
Maybe a couple of rubs, and you said that you've got the reverse flow that's just about to come out and stuff like that. So what's the future for ProQ? What are we going to see coming and happening?
So we've got our commercial side moving forward quite quickly in Europe, especially with our gravity feed smokers. I mean, because they're aimed at restaurants and that sort of thing, it's been a little bit of a slow start. It's quite a big investment, but we've definitely been moving forward. I mean, Australia have massively bought into that. And yeah, later this year, I think probably within the next month, we'll have our first 2 reverse flows arriving in the UK.
Awesome.
So we'll cook on those sort of constantly for a good couple of weeks, just to make sure that we're completely happy with them, and then we'll have an order in, and they'll be here probably by the beginning of summer.
I saw the picture. They look absolutely beautiful. They look absolutely. I can't wait to see one.
Yeah, if you need a hand in those couple of weeks of testing, then don't worry about contacting us.
Yeah, just give us a shout. I'll let you know when they arrive. You can come down.
Yeah, awesome.
What a lot of people ask us about especially on the sort of reverse flows is, we need them lighter for competition, but unfortunately we don't build light because we build to last.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's a bit of a compromise. You can build light, but you're not going to get a solid product that's going to last, 20, 30 years. And what we'd rather go for is, value for money.
Yeah, I certainly know what I'd rather go for as well. Mm. Yeah, no, definitely. Makes sense.
Yeah, they're a bit more difficult to get into your Toyota Aygo, but...
My new Mini.
Hey, you got a new Mini, huh?
Yeah.
I can't see it fitting in there.
We'll have to mount it on the back.
Yeah.
No, that would be cool.
Mount the Mini inside.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we've also got some charcoal coming out, which is coconut based. It's made from coconut shells, so it's completely eco-friendly. That's a waste product, and it's compressed into little cubes. And it burns really, really hot and burns for ages, so it sort of blows lumpwood out of the water.
That sounds awesome. I've actually tried it. Yeah, I've tried that out, haven't I? Yeah. Yeah, I was just saying to Dan the other day how awesome that stuff is. The smell of it as well. It just it didn't add a lot of taste, I don't think, to the flavour of the cook, but you could, when you open the box, you could smell coconut.
It's pretty awesome stuff. I mean, it's got a really low ash content as well, so you don't get that sort of full gap under your fire basket, and that sort of knocks out your fire. It sort of only gives off a tiny bit of ash. Yeah,
I concur with that. Yeah, when I've come to the end of a cook whilst I've been using it, it was completely, well, not completely clear, that'd be a lie, but it's pretty clear underneath, and it's kept a good airflow going through the whole time whilst I'm cooking.
Yeah, I think we've also got our rubs coming out. We've got probably an all-purpose one. We've got one that's sort of herby Mediterranean one for chicken, and then we've got the beef one, which is I think it's 4 different kinds of pepper. It's got telecherry, Benny kick, and just salt with that.
Oh wow, that sounds absolutely awesome. Sounds right up my street. It's amazing. I love it. The last one we've got is a fish rub, which is kind of cool. It's also quite a herby one, similar to our chicken rub. But yeah, it's we've been playing with it for a while now, and I think we're almost ready.
Cool. So what is that? Just any fish that'll go with, or is it aimed at specific fish?
Yeah, I think it'll probably go better with whitefish. I mean, salmon and tuna are sort of something that I personally treat like beef. I give them salt and pepper, and they're happy.
Yeah.
Racist rub. Now, cool. So when you say, I mean, I'm just going to quickly just drop back there to the 4 different types of pepper. So in a rub, can you really taste the different types of pepper? Is that something you guys have perfected over a sort of period of time?
It's a sort of joint effort between us and this company that we're working with that really knows their spices. They source spices from all around the world, and it's sort of a blend that they've developed and sort of given us options with, and we've said, this one's got the best flavors in it, and that's the way we worked that. But yeah, I mean, you can taste the different peppers, some sweeter than others. Sometimes you get sort of a really big kick from the telecherry. And yeah, it's quite sort of, it's an interesting that you get so many different flavor levels out of just pepper.
That sounds so cool. That's just really interests me. I can't wait to try it out. Awesome.
We're both heavily into our herbs and spices, aren't we? So
Yeah, I like to sort of make my own rubs. And when I was around yours the other day, you had your your rubs out on display, and get your nose in here, smell this, taste this, and it was great. Yeah, it was awesome. That's what I do love. You take it a little bit step further than me. You actually you buy herbs in, and you smoke them yourself, and then you then use them to create further rubs, which is awesome. I haven't actually tried that myself, so that's something I'm definitely looking to give a go at.
Just drying out stuff as well, so you can dry out like mushrooms and stuff like that to add that into different things as well.
Yeah, cool, awesome. Right, guys. Well, I would like to step in there. We're approaching the hour mark, and just thank you for coming on the show and sharing all of that with us. I think that, I mean, I've learned some stuff from this podcast, and I'm sure other people have as well. And it's great to have you on.
No worries. Thanks for having us. It's been really good fun.
Thank you.
I'd like to, thank everyone that's supported us over the years. I mean, without them, we wouldn't have a business. So, thanks to all those guys that really have got behind the ProQ brand.
Yeah, now also, and then you guys are also now getting behind other brands, which is great to see. I mean, you're supporting us, for instance, and I know from other things I've been supported by ProQ, so it's great to then see you guys giving back to the barbecue world and trying to make things work, which is awesome. You've been a massive help to us, and we look forward to working with you further in the future, which is great. So thank you very much.
And thank you for inventing such great barbecues and letting us use them.
Yeah, definitely. Right, so this episode was brought to you by our kind sponsors, ProQ Smokers. ProQ is dedicated to providing you with quality smoking products with top-notch service and free advice for beginners or pit masters. You can find them on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram under ProQ Smokers. That's PRO, the letter Q, Smokers. And thank you for tuning in to UnitedQ BBQ Podcast, the only barbecue radio podcast in the UK, brought to you by your host Dan from UnitedQ and his co-host BBQForte.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.